Hello, welcome to my video. I'm going to show you how to dye fabrics using Shibori. I'm using this old stained t-shirt. You can use any fabric as long as it's not synthetic, as it won't take dye or bleach. I'll be using bleach in this video. I have this steam iron here. I can't remember where I got it from, but they're easy to find online and are very affordable. I start by laying my t-shirt flat and steaming out the creases in the area I'm about to be working on. I noticed there was a white residue transferring to the t-shirt for the first few swipes. I think it was just lime scale, as I haven't been using distilled or ironing water as you're supposed to, but it did just dust off and didn't affect the fabric. I then start folding the t-shirt from the bottom upwards. You want to do equal, parallel lines and steam each fold as you go, like a concertina or paper fan. Repeat this step until you get to the top of your fabric. It doesn't matter what width you choose to do for these lines as long as they are relatively equal. Also, if you don't have a steam iron, a regular iron is perfectly sufficient. So this is quite a slow video, especially the first half, so please feel free to speed it up or skip some sections as there is a lot of repetition. And while I'm folding, a brief history. Shibori is an ancient Japanese fabric dyeing technique where folding, binding, compressing, or stitching is used to create a resist in specific areas of the fabric. Indigo was typically used in the dyeing process. This was done by fermenting indigo leaves, which creates their iconic blue and white textiles. This ancient art form produces a vast array of designs depending on the technique you choose to use. You can also combine techniques. It is the precursor to what we know as tie-dye in the West. I would love to try some more techniques, especially stitching, which I did try once in the past. It was a lot more time consuming than this is, but that can also be down to the width and spacing of the stitches you are doing. Next time I will show you how I do it and we can see the results together. So, back to the video. As the layers of folds are starting to get too thick for the heat and steam to penetrate the fabric, I turn the shirt over to make it easier to work with. And continue folding just as before. You can really use this technique on just about anything as long as it's fabric and you're able to fold it. I love how easy this technique actually is. I remember seeing fabrics dyed using Shibori and thinking I'd never be able to achieve the same results at home. But since trying it, everything has always come out so beautifully, even the very first piece I made, which was just on some scrap fabric, which I later used in a patchwork project. You can use any colours to suit your style. I have a couple of videos of me recycling some old bedsheets, dyeing them and making a skirt. I love the idea of upcycling clothes or reusing materials to create something new. It allows you to be more creative and stop so much ending up in landfill. And we made it. Here we have the final strip, which means we're ready for the next step before dyeing. Normally, I like to fold this into triangles, as the final result is a gorgeous geometric design, but as this is very chunky, I'm going to have to roll it. I roll it like this in the hopes of getting a square or rectangular design at the end as opposed to just stripes. If you are going for a stripe design, try rolling it in a tube shape. It will work very well. And I would normally use paper clips for each of these sections that I'm holding here, which helps hold it together as I'm folding it and throughout the dyeing portion. But this is just too thick, so I use some scrap knitting wool to bind it. Every time I use real wool, and this is just as a binder, it dissolves when I use bleach. So that's a warning for you, not to bleach your wool. If you really want to try, do a patch test in an inconspicuous place and see how it takes it. And make sure to water the bleach down a lot. So our t-shirt is now looking like a Viennetta ice cream, teehee, if you ever had those, and is now ready for the next step. I next place it in this tub, which luckily fits so perfectly. I pour a little water over it, which is recommended for both dyeing and bleaching as it allows the colour to penetrate the fabric and evenly absorb into the fibres. I can't say I always do this step though, it depends what kind of dye mix I made and how dense the fabric is. Next, I pour water into a dish and add bleach. This is just household bleach, the cheap kind. Not sure if it's good for fabric, but I've used it a lot and haven't had any issues. I haven't really measured anything here, but it's about 25% bleach and 75% water. I'm just making enough for this fabric. I didn't mix it well enough either, as you can see there's some thick bleach sitting in some spots. So I add a little more water, and just off camera I mixed another batch of bleach and water, which I also pour over the top, and of course a little extra water. There isn't really a lot of bleach going in here. I swish the water a little and let it sit for about an hour. You can leave it longer if you want it whiter. I would recommend doing this in a well-ventilated area or outside is even better. I've put clips of the progression of the bleach and pour more over the top periodically, just bleach from the same tub. You can see that the wool completely dissolved by the end. I wash all the bleach off, ready for the next step. Next, which is not necessary, I'm just adding this Dylon machine dye in sunflower yellow and table salt. I get my empty bottle for shaking and funnel the ingredients in. My box of dye was nearly empty, so I just poured it all in. It was about a tablespoon worth, and I do equal parts of salt. I make sure that I poke all the ingredients into the bottle. Next, I add water. I didn't measure, but it was about 200 milliliters. Sorry, blocking the camera, not that I'm doing anything important. I put the lid on the bottle and shake well. I'm only adding a little yellow to increase the vibrancy of the green. I probably could have done this in the first stage before folding, but here we are. So the salt actually helps the dye penetrate the fibres of the fabric, especially cellulose fabrics like cotton, which is what I have here. It creates a positive charge on the fabric that attracts the dye, creating a deeper, more vibrant, longer lasting colour. I let this sit for only 20 minutes before washing it out, and ta-da! The final result. I think it came out amazing and I can wear it again without looking like I dribbled everywhere, hee hee. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.